And so, my dear ones, welcome into March and into the advancement of spring. Spring is springing. It is springing, and very soon you and I will know it. We will feel it. We will sniff the fragrance of it, and we will hear the song of it in all of the land as it produces these glorious colors and fragrances, and the birds begin to build their nests and sing their songs. And so I'm wondering what we are building right now, or what we want to build, or what spring is going to mean to us, and if we'll allow its energy to come through us in such a way that we're open and receptive to creating wonderful and building wonderful new things in our lives that support our lives, and in supporting our lives, support all life. So the general topic for the March in the Centers of Spiritual Living is rooted in divinity. We are rooted in divinity, and today's particular aspect of that is the looking at what the personal self is. What is the personal self? What is the personal self? So in that question, I would ask us all, what personal self did we bring into the sanctuary today? How did we come in today? What were we feeling? What we were thinking? And how would we identify our personal self today? Through what we brought in here, through what we're thinking, through what we're feeling. What would that look like? Would we be delighted by what we glean from that kind of information, or not, as the question may be? But we will be asking ourselves these things throughout the week so that we can get a deeper awareness of who we are and what we are, and what this thing called the personal self of us is too. And of course, where do we get that information generally? I mean, do we get the identification of ourselves from all that amazing mind talk, mind chatter that goes on all of the time? What does that tell us about ourselves? How does that identify us? How does all the chatter that goes through our minds identify us? How does all the feeling that chatter creates identify us? How does the action upon which that feeling and thinking happens, how does that identify us? And we're not talking about the past now. Forget the past. Whoever you were in the past doesn't matter a whit. Right up until this moment, it doesn't matter how you were in the past. What matters is right now, how you're going to choose to identify yourself, and what you're going to call yourself, and what you think yourself is. That's what matters, and that's what you and I are asked to look at during this coming week. Who the heck am I? What the heck am I? Is it working for me? Do I like what I am? Do I like how I show up? Do I like how I identify myself? Does it make me feel good? Does it make me feel, jazzed and ready to go every new day when I awaken into another gift of a day? What is that identification doing for me? And how do I wear it? And how does it wear me? These are the questions we're looking at this week. No pressure. It's a very small thing, really, isn't it? I mean, really, it's the norm, isn't it? This is what I embrace every day. I'm looking at myself in this way. I don't think so. When all of the outside world crowds in and wants that attention, wants a bit of you, this wants a bit of you, that wants a bit of you, who the heck knows what's going on in your mind, or how you think you are, or what indeed you're even feeling sometimes. Because life gets so condensed and so compacted and so pressed in. Life gets to be so much the stealer, the robber of our own conscious awareness of who and what we are, because we let it. Simply because we allow it to happen that way. And so, of course, if you go to the teaching of Science of Mind and Spirit will indicate to us that we are indeed, the personal self is the great self. The personal self is the true essence of our being. The personal self is the truth of us, the wholeness of us. The self that is totally aligned and totally centered and totally poised and totally aware of its completeness and wholeness. That's the personal self of ourselves. Well, okay then. What have we been missing? What have we been missing if this is the truth? And so we are this because the teaching defines us. Ancient wisdom and present wisdom defines us as individualized expressions of a whole life, individual expressions of a whole life. And if you look at the whole life as, as a holograph, then if any part of that is taken away from it, within the part, as you know, the whole thing is perfect and exists. The reflection of the whole thing is perfect and exists in the part. And so that's what we are, individualized expressions of something that's very whole, something that's very complete, something that's very integrated, something that's very unified, something that's very one thing. And the energy of that one thing is always in synchronicity, it's always in coherence, it's always vibing and moving and beating to the sound of, to the energy of, to the truth of harmony and unity. Now that's the personal self. So what you and I want to do this week is to get more in touch with the personal self, identify more with the personal self so that we can experience ourselves more as the personal self. Now, again, the question always comes up, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing the praying, I'm doing the reading, I'm doing the classes, I'm coming to the center, I'm coming to church, I'm coming to temple, I'm doing, and yet I don't know, I'm not getting it, it seems. It's not happening for me. I don't feel all that wonderful stuff that I read about and hear about and so on. Well, it's interesting that chemistry and physics can support the teaching, actually. And I was just, it's in the article now in The Science of Mind, Dr. Dispenza, I think it is, Dr. Dispenza has an article in there on all of this. And he points out that our biochemistry plays a big part in how we are and how we feel about ourselves and so on. And he says that, that in the brain, all this wonderful activity is going on, and that random thinking, random effects can trigger in all parts of the brain a response and send out wave energies into all the cells of the brain that are not in order and that are not synchronized, so that the peaks and valleys in the brain are not unified and synchronized. Didn't know there were peaks and valleys in the brain in that way, in that description, but the article is great. Get the magazine and read it. And he says, it's an awesome thing when indeed we are not sending signals of random thought and random thinking to the brain, when we're synchronized, when we're concentrated, when we are attentive, when we are mindful, when we are deliberate, when we are purposeful, how powerful, he says, the brain is in that state. It's an awesome thing. And he says also, through our biochemistry, we become, he said, addicted. We are addicted, and we have to remember that we are already at this stage of our lives addicted to this agitation, to this fear-based survival mode. We're addicted to fear-based survival mode, and like any addiction, we're going to crave whatever stimulus it is that makes us feel okay and keeps us in the addiction to be fear-filled and in survival mode, like cortisol, he says, and adrenaline. And so it's a great article, get it and read it. But you see, our biology is very much associated, with everything that's going on in our lives and living. Psychology is affected by biology. Biology is affecting our psychology. It's a two-way thing, and we have to take care of all of ourselves. So we need to get this form, in gear, and we need to get it aligned if we're going to flourish and thrive and be that vim and that vigor and that zest that this body is meant to demonstrate and experience. Vim, vigor, and zest, the hop, skip, and jump every day. If I want to hop, if I want to skip, if I want to jump, I can. And I always want to hop, skip, and jump. In fact, you'll see me running around the place like a rabbit sometimes. When I'm late for a very important date, all of that stuff, you know. You put on your runners and you get going. And I want to always be able to do that. I was at a great celebration the other night. A friend of ours, Dr. Sue Rubin, celebrating her 90th birthday. She had more energy than all of us. More energy than all of us. And she danced the night away and was still standing upright when everybody else was saying, oh God, I've had enough. I'm tired. When they were all in their bare feet, she's still in her high heels dancing around the place. I mean, 90 years of age doesn't mean anything anymore, as some of the people sitting in this room will attest to, like Bess down there. I'm telling you, of course, she's only 21 and a bit, but the bit's the biggest. And so, what is it going to be? What do you want? How do you want to be? How do you want to be? For whatever that looks like, you've got to be able to put oomph behind it and put a little action onto it, and then be it. There's nothing to stop you from being how you want to be. Nothing, except thinking makes it so. Thinking makes it so. So are we going to sit in our addiction to fear and survival mode? Are we going to sit in our inertia and tell ourselves, so I'm this age, so you can't expect much more than this, and really, and so on and so forth. Now that's causing random thinking and so on, and messing up the brain waves that are going on in here. Not a good thing. Anytime you think less than in any way of yourself or any aspect of life and living, not a good thing. It's sucking the oxygen out of yourself and everything else as well. It's depleting your energy. It's lowering your energy. If your energy is lowered, the energy in life, all of life, is lowered too. So the call this week is to get up out of this survival mode and this inertia, this molasses of random thought and mindless feelings and thinkings that cause us to stay put. And the more we become immovable, this is what happens. Everything shuts down. Everything hardens. Everything just decides to just become like, have you ever seen petrified wood? Well, we don't want to become petrified anything, do we? But thinking can make it so. I was at the brushing my teeth the other day, and I got this from a friend of mine. When you're brushing your teeth or do anything, keep moving. So as I'm brushing my teeth, I'm going, and then I'm feeling, oh my God, those hamstrings, they won't. Oh, I better go lower. I better do more. And your body will tell you. You think everything's okay because you can walk or run or whatever, but don't take it for granted. You've got to be able to do the stretching too. You've got to be able to do that. I mean, really and truly, if you cannot do that, it's your own fault. More or less, not always, but more or less. And then, of course, well, I'm so tired. I come in, I sit down, and that great program was on the television, and I just felt I deserved to relax and enjoy it. Well, what is that doing for your body? Nothing that's good for you, nothing. So every hour, they say at least, get up every hour and do something. Just move where you are. You can still watch the thing. You don't miss a beat, but you can move. You can do something. And if you can do it with your body, you can do it with your mind. It's all a question of what I want. How do I want to be? How do I want to show up in life and living? What is that all about? And who's going to help me to make that happen? No one else. You got to become what you want to be. And the way you become what you want to be is by responding. And it's not doing anything. You don't have to do anything. Here's what you learn as you go on a little bit. You don't need more power. You don't have to make the power move through you. That's impossible anyway. the power for good, is always moving through you, and it's always moving through me. And I don't have to do anything except one thing. And the only one thing that I have to do is respond to it. Respond to it. I can't make it happen. I can't bring on more power. There's no more power given to me or available for me than all of the power I've already been given. But what I can do and must do is respond to the power that's here available to me, to work for me, to move through me in such a way that I can indeed become the idea of what I want to be. And if what I am now is not in alignment with what I want to be and who I want to be, it's my own doing. It's my own doing. I am not responding to the power, the presence that's available to me. I am a very real and present help in your life, says the power, says the good, says the divine. I'm rooted, I'm told. I'm rooted in divinity. I'm rooted in divinity, rooted in divinity. And I love that word rooted, because what it says to me is I can look at an acorn and I can see the most phenomenal oak tree. I can look at a seed and I can see a bunch of beautiful flowers. I can look at a root and I can see a bulb, and I can see the golden, wonderful blossoms that come out of that bulb. But only when it's rooted. I have to put it down into the invisible below, into the soil of that subterranean factor that it needs in order for it to root itself. And if that seed is a good seed, if it's a good seed, it is going to root. It's going to spread those roots. It's going to deepen those roots. And when those roots are truly where they're supposed to be and how they're supposed to be, up out of the invisible flows the visible beauty and grace of a tree, a flower, a bush, whatever. Do you not know? It's the same system for you and for me when we want to grow anything good and beautiful and awesome that delights us. I have to take the seed of the mindful, concentrated, focused thought for good, and I have to plant that deeply within the subterranean, the subconsciousness of my deeper mind. And I have to tend it and care for it so that it can get all the nutrients it needs to root itself. And then I have to just be mindful and watchful of it and rejoice in the idea as I look out into my garden, the garden of the landscape of my mind, and see this thing growing. And then, lo and behold, there it is. Whatever that good thing is I want to experience is mine. But I have to come into cooperation with the law of creativity, the way life works. It works by corresponding to what I am sowing and planting and tending to in my mind. And if that thought is deep enough and strong enough and often enough, I will be feeling that thought. And that feeling is going to turn itself into a conviction that's awesome. And when that conviction hits awesome, I can already start rejoicing over the good that's coming my way. That's shooting up through all of that fertile soil and ready to burst forth into an experience, into the blossom of a harvest. Boy, do we have it good. Do we have it going for us? What is it? What is it about us when we know this, we know this, we know this, that we are not moving upon it in a way that causes this good to become part of our experience? This week we're going to find out, because we're going to be asking ourselves, how am I identifying myself today? What's going on in my mind today? What am I thinking today? Who do I think I am today? How am I going to show up in the world today? Who goes forth today when I leave this house? Who goes forth? What goes forth in me as I leave this house? Is it all that random stuff? Is it that sense of fear-filled survival mode? Oh my God, will I get through this day? This is going to be an awesome hard day. Oh my gosh, I have this and that to do. And I don't know what that meeting's going to be like and what the outcome of that is. And oh my goodness me, if she looks crooked at me today, I'm telling you, I don't know what my response is going to be. I really don't. Oh, wait now, breathe. Okay, I can do this. I can do this. God, you better show up in me today, because I'm telling you, if it's me that shows up, we're in trouble. I'm ready. Now, don't tell me you haven't done that sometimes, in some shape, way, make, or form. Don't tell me you had to give yourself a do-over just before something is about to happen. Of course, and especially those of us who want to do so much and succeed in doing good and making the world a better. Don't kill yourself trying to make the world a better place. That's not what it's all about. Don't upset yourself. Don't sicken yourself. Don't, tire yourself out trying to do that. Because if that's what's happening, we're not going about it the right way. We really aren't. We'd be better off staying at home and doing a bit of meditation or spiritual reading or making a cup of tea or going out into the garden. Or if you haven't got a garden, attending a little plant indoors, whatever. That would be better for us and for the whole world if we weren't out in it some days. So really and truly, those first moments in the morning are very, very important. The decision you make when you wake up, am I not right, Reverend Mary? The decision you make when you wake up in the morning with regard to how you are. You wake up and you don't go, oh, am I okay? Is everything all right? Oh, today's Tuesday. Stop it there, right there. God, by means of me, has awoken this morning. And if God wakes up in me today, I'm going to wake up in God. I'm awake in God. And you jump out of that bed because you know you can jump. And I mean jump out of the bed. Don't be wondering if your foot's going to make it in the right place or whatever. You can do this if you know that you are cooperating, responding. You don't have to make it happen. You're just cooperating and responding with all that power that is yours to enjoy, yours to manifest, yours to achieve any great good that you want to achieve. As Moira Foxe and everybody else says, don't take all of this for granted. Don't take somebody's word on this. Prove it to yourself. Prove it to yourself. And if we could just golden key everything, our lives would be so stunning, so spiritually Oscar worthy. So stunning if we could golden key everything. And what is that? Take your mind off your goings on, your problems, your survival mode, and all of that, and put your mind on God, the divinity, the true essence of your being. And let that be all that you contemplate and ponder, especially in times of great challenge. Take your mind off everything and just keep your mind focused on the God I am, the power, the presence, the grace of spirit that flows through every single solitary atom, aspect of your entire being. And if we do that, everything else is absorbed within that awareness of the one true essence of being, the one life, the one power, the one beauty, the one grace that each and every one of us is. We are rooted in divinity. We are rooted in grace. We are rooted in that which is greater than we are. The power for good in the universe greater than we are. That we get to use and that uses us. And all we have to do is to just be in cooperation with its flow. I am in the divine flow, and the divine flow is in me, and the divine flow moves through me magnificently, is one of my affirmations, most especially when I'm crawling on a freeway. and whatever else is so challenging. I go consciously into the flow of divine grace, into that power, into that presence, into that life, into that light that chose, for whatever reason, that chose to show up, to know itself by means of me. Now, if the divine wants to know itself by means of me, surely I want to know myself by means of the divine, don't you? Yeah. And so it is. It's going to be a great week for everybody. Great week for everybody. Yes. Yes. We are the responders this week. And Mrs. McKinney has a message for us.
Dear church, I know that stuff just happens sometimes. But when it does, sometimes you have to take time to fix it. That happened to me. I had a car accident that totaled my car. No one was hurt at all. I took time to be grateful for no injury and no fuss, really. While I was waiting for the tow truck to come, a motorcycle police officer stopped to check. His last words were, "Well, it looks as if you have everything handled." I immediately put out the word for prayer, for grace and ease in replacing my car. I know that I had dozens, if not hundreds of people knowing the truth for me. 3 days later, I saw the car that I really wanted. On that day, I became the proud owner of a newer, more comfortable, quieter car, and I can easily afford it. Thank you, Science of Mind, for showing me how to change my life. I am so grateful.
Woo, isn't that great? See, there was no random response to that. That was a conscious response to that situation, and it worked out so beautifully. It's wonderful. And the thanks is due to you. If you weren't here, we wouldn't have a Center for Spiritual Living. If you weren't here, we wouldn't be able to provide opportunities for each other, and not just the people in this room, but everybody who's looking in and tuning into us. We love it when you do, and thank you for your presence amongst us. So this is, every time you hear a good thing up here, you can know, gosh, I'm part of causing that to happen, and feel good about it, because that's the truth. So now let's take our gift. Mine is on my desk. Let's take, Mrs. McKinney will make sure she gets it, and hold it between our hands and bless it and say, "Divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper all those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love, and so it is."
If today were the last of all days, would it change how you feel, who you are? Would you rise for a moment above all your fears, become one with the moon and the stars? Would you like what you see looking down? Did you give everything that you could? Did you do all the things that you wanted to do? Is there still so much more that you would? Follow your dream to the end of the rainbow, way beyond one pot of gold. Open your eyes to the colors around you and find the true beauty life holds. Would you live in the moment like when you were young, when time didn't travel so fast, being free in the moment, enjoying the now, not tied to a future or past. Follow your dream to the end of the rainbow, way beyond one bar of gold. Open your eyes to the colors around you and find the true beauty life holds. Beyond one pot of gold. Open your eyes to the colors around you and find the true beauty life holds. You'd probably say all you wanted to say. Doesn't it strike us as strange? Now we begin to start living our lives. If today were the last of all days, if today were the last of all days. Sherry Williams.
Awesome Sherry, the awesome Sherry who's with us. Hooray, hooray, hooray. I always say it to her and anybody who listens. I would listen to her singing anything, even if it was out of a telephone book, an old telephone book. You don't see them that often, but that's true. But anything, she just has to open her mouth in a song and I'm there. So thank you for being with us. We love it. Thank you. And what a lovely song. Do you have your CDs with you? She doesn't have her CD. Well, that's... Because as you know, I love to support the singers and the musicians with their music. We need good music in our world, and that's a lovely way to support their music ministry, is to bring them home with you in the form of a CD, and that helps. And as well as that, it's a lovely thing to listen to it. If you want to raise energy, listen to good music. Good music will do it, you know. And when you're feeling tired and weary and you don't want to scrub the floor or whatever, does anybody anymore scrub floors? I do sometimes when I want to really get a good out. Yeah. Anyway, put on good music and you won't have any problem scrubbing floors. I can tell you that. And it's good therapy and it's a beautiful spiritual practice. So, my dear ones, whatever, yes, it is a beautiful, clean, spiritual practice. It's one way of getting it to do what needs to be done. And if you're all the time criticizing about how they didn't get that and they didn't do this, and get down and do it yourself, I say. Anyway, this week is a great and glorious week. Now, we have set it. We have set the intention for this week and what and who we are this week. We're going to know first and foremostly, because we're going to check in and see who am I going to let loose on the world today? Who's that going to be? Which of those characters in there? Is it which committee member that assembles in the mind, who's going to go out there now today? And we're going to know that Spirit's going to go before us and prepare the way and allow us to experience ourselves as Spirit experiences us. How wonderful is that? And thank you for all your good deeds and all your good thoughts and all your good doings and goings on, because you're making a difference in the world. You truly are, and it's the only way you and I can make a difference is by making it in ourselves. And so a great week is ahead for those of us who are going to allow it. And again, there are classes coming up, and if you really want to deepen the teaching, the classroom is the way to do it, the way to go. And two great classes coming up, one on the teachings of Ernest Holmes, and the other is Hollywell's wonderful book on spiritual laws. And spiritual laws is simply a map with regard to how to maneuver through this world with that grace, with that ease, with that poise, and not only experience a lovely life yourself, but spread that beautiful energy out there so that everybody can be open and receptive to it. That's all we want, is to pray for an open receptivity in this world to the good that is within each one and that is in the world. That's all. Open receptivity to what already is, the good that already is. So we're going to have our prayer now, and we're going to dedicate it again to peace and goodwill and open receptivity in us and everyone else and everything else to good. So I know divine love enfolds me, divine light leads me, divine life, divine wisdom inspires me, divine compassion expresses through me, and divine power protects me. All that I am is Spirit's life in expression. It is good and very good. With deep joy and generosity filling me, I go forward now in sacred service, supporting a compassionate world that works for all. I move through my days with grace and ease, in peace and love, in health, in fullness and plenty, and in loving relationship with all. What I now know for myself, with blessing and in deep gratitude, I know for all life. There is only God. And of course, today's virtue from the season for nonviolence is love, sweet love. And if you haven't got those 64 affirmations for every day, there's some out there on the counter as you go out. And that article is a good article. It's worth reading in the Science of Mind magazine, and other great articles too. And so let's stand now for our peace song and prayer at the piano afterwards, prayer with practitioners later, fellowship in Richelieu Hall.